The National Security Agency has reportedly installed software in computers around the world that lets the United States government monitor those machines even if the computers are not connected to the internet. They can get to you whether you're online or not. That's according to the reporting of the New York Times, citing NSA documents, computer experts, and U.S. officials. According to those sources, the secret technology could also let the NSA launch a cyber attack. But agency officials tell us the times they use it to defend against attacks. That's what it's for, not to launch them. The targets reportedly include drug cartels and the Russian and Chinese militaries. Other newspapers have reported on parts of this program previously, using documents from the former NSA contractor Ed Snowden. The technology reportedly uses radio waves and is affecting nearly 100,000 computers around the world, but apparently none here in the United States. At least that's what they tell us. An NSA spokeswoman tells Fox News, and I quote, "NSA's activities are focused and specifically deployed against and only against valid foreign intelligence targets in response to intelligence requirements." Well, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano is with us on the Fox News deck. Nothing is surprising anymore. Nothing.
No, it's not. Well, what's a little different about this is there's no flat denial by the NSA. It's basically saying to us, don't worry about it. We only use this for going after the bad guys. So if you trust them, then you trust them with listening to all of our emails and all of our texts and all of our phone calls, because according to them, while they have that stored, they don't listen and they don't read.
And they only use this technology overseas. We don't even know what this technology is.
No, but we understand that it is done wirelessly and that it enables the NSA basically to hack into computers. Now, if they could hack into a computer in Milan, Italy, or in Syria, they could hack into a computer in Hackensack, New Jersey, or in Dallas, Texas.
Hackensack, I saw what you did there.
All right.
Yeah. But you know, the point is, if they can do it, history tells us they're going to do it.
Yes.
They're going to.
Yes, because they operate in secret, the court meets in secret, the records are kept secret, there's no public accountability, so there's no restraint on their behavior.
Yeah, we already know that some of their tactics that are supposed to be used against terrorists have also been used against ordinary criminals and against drug dealers.
We also know that the judge who found this unconstitutional found it ineffective, that the judge who found it constitutional said there's no evidence that it works, that the president's own appointed oversight review board that had 2 full-time intelligence community professionals, including a former director of the CIA, found that it doesn't work. So why are they doing it? They can't answer that because, well, their answer is, we can't tell you if it works. Because if we tell you whether or not it works, we'll be spilling the beans. Now, that is simply not a logical argument in a free society about whether or not we're going to let the government spy on us.
And yet the number of sheeple out in this country who say, let them do whatever they want. If they're protecting my freedom and they're protecting us from the bad guys, then let them do whatever the hell they want. Those people are going to be the ones to hold responsible when it all goes down the toilet. Because if they can break every tenet of the Constitution in trampling on our freedoms and our liberties to get to these things, then we've lost it.
Yes.
You can just throw it out the window.
Unfortunately, a majority of the Congress seems to agree with the argument that you just so nicely summarized. You have, on the right, Senator Rand Paul attacking it. On the left, Senator Bernie Sanders, a socialist from Vermont, attacking it. And in the middle, now there are others who agree with them, but in the middle, the vast majority of both parties in both houses of Congress say, we got to look tough. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Because it doesn't make us tough. It doesn't even work. The people who have said, one who said it's constitutional, one who said it's unconstitutional, and the president's own overseers say, we don't actually think this works. And it's not effective.
And the NSA says, we can't tell you if it works because then we'll be telling you too much. Look, we know this.
Yep.
The government has stealthily acquired the ability to destroy privacy. And soon a generation of Americans will come of age, children born in the past 4 or 5 years, who will never know what privacy means.
And it'll be gone.
Yes.
Which it is. Judge, thank you.
Pleasure.
But it's our fault. Specifically, it's your fault if that's how you feel about it. But that's just me.
Well, today, the president announcing new plans for the government surveillance program that targets millions of unsuspecting Americans. The NSA collecting things like email, text messages, phone calls. The president saying he wants to change the way that data is handled, but not talking about actually ending the program. On the phone now is Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who is such an outspoken critic of the program, he filibustered over it and is suing the administration. Great to see you, Senator, or to hear you.
Yeah, glad to be with you, Gretchen.
All right, so I read your initial press release. You said that you were disappointed. What is your other reaction to the president's speech and changes?
You know, what I heard was the president saying, if you like your privacy, you can keep it. But meanwhile, he's going to keep collecting all of your data. He really didn't announce that he's going to quit collecting anything. They're going to continue to collect your phone records, your emails, your text messages, and many people think they're collecting your credit card statements, too. So that doesn't sound to me like he's really going to change. He gave a lot of sort of, I guess, rosy rhetoric about how he was going to do a better job at protecting privacy, but he didn't announce that he was going to do any less collection of our personal records.
Well, what do you make of this statement where he said that you can no longer request data to people beyond a terrorist target? So does that mean that if I am two people linked to a terrorist target, then they'll collect my data, but the third person removed, they won't?
See, I guess what I don't quite understand about it is he thinks that, well, instead of breaking the Fourth Amendment 4 times, we'll just break it 2 times. Because here's my opinion. If you are a potential terrorist and we have a warrant to go after you, I don't care if they do 20 hops, meaning they go way back into the data. They just have to keep asking for warrants, and they do it with a judicial warrant. So for him to say, oh, we're just going to keep collecting it, we're just going to collect less of it, really means they're just, you know, I'm going to continue breaking the Fourth Amendment, but I won't break it as much as I used to.
What about the FISA court ruling? Because a lot of people are calling that draconian, that we're going back to pre-9/11. Where did you fall on that before and after?
You know, I think that when it comes to a constitutional question of whether the Fourth Amendment applies, you can't have that decided in secret in the FISA court. So ultimately, we need to go to the Supreme Court to decide whether a single warrant applies to millions of Americans' phone records,
right,
or whether you'd have to individualize the warrant. You know, when we fought the Revolutionary War, that was one thing we objected to from the British soldiers. They were writing their own generalized warrants, and they were invading Americans' homes and looking for their papers to see if they paid the stamp tax. We objected to that, so we wrote the Fourth Amendment. We said it had to be specific, individualized, and that's the way warrants were supposed to be.
Right.
So many of us think it's unconstitutional to write a single warrant and not specify whose records you want.
Well, even within your own party, there's Congressman Peter King, who's been extremely critical of you. I want you to listen to this and react.
Rand Paul does not know what he's talking about, and Rand Paul is really spreading fear among the American people. To me, either he's totally uninformed or he's part of that hate America crowd that I thought leftists in the 1960s.
Wow. So how would you respond back to Congressman King?
I guess just to laugh and chuckle, and, you know, every person can have their opinion, but I don't think it furthers the debate very much. I think that there's a serious constitutional question here, and that's whether a single warrant can apply to millions of people. 5 of the Supreme Court justices, we think, have already indicated a willingness to review this case, to look at whether or not there was a case in the 70s called Maryland versus Smith, and it had to do with wiretaps on one individual, and the government is saying that that applies to every American in the country without naming those Americans. And I think the Supreme Court will rein this in. I cannot imagine that the Supreme Court is not going to come down harshly on the government and say, no, we cannot have this law breaking. They're already doing it to the president on the recess appointments.
Right.
I think you're going to find that this president believes the Constitution applies to him only when he thinks it applies to him. And I think he's going to find out differently when we get these to the Supreme Court.
Our system of government is built on the premise that our liberty cannot depend on the good intentions of those in power.